For 17 years, my wife, 39F, and I, 40M, built what I thought was an unshakable foundation. We were high school sweethearts, sharing dreams, laughter, and 3 beautiful daughters, now 11, 13, and 15. Our love story spanned 23 years, or so I believed, until 3 days ago when my world came crashing down. That fateful morning, my wife returned from work only to hastily pack an overnight bag, tears streaming down her face. Our eldest daughter witnessed her departure, a scene that would haunt me for days to come. My wife was trembling, barely able to form words through her sobs, teetering on the edge of a complete breakdown. The silence that followed was deafening. No response to our desperate calls and messages, just an overwhelming void where her presence used to be. In my panic, I reached out to her parents, who finally responded with cryptic words of reassurance. She was safe with them, they said, urging me to be patient and understanding. But understanding what? Her brother claimed ignorance, while her coworker revealed she had mysteriously left work by midday 3 days prior. The uncertainty was suffocating. No communication with me or our children, just an endless echo of unanswered questions. Here I am, trying to maintain some semblance of normalcy for our 3 daughters. When they ask about their mother, all I can offer is the hollow comfort that she's with their grandparents, parroting the same words about patience and understanding that were fed to me. The temptation to load the kids into the car and drive the 3 hours to her parents' house grows stronger with each passing moment. This limbo is excruciating. The girls speculate about a heated argument leading to divorce, but nothing could be further from the truth. Our home has always been a haven of peace. We rarely argued, a fact our children know well. The absurdity of the situation gnaws at me. In times of crisis, your spouse should be your first confidant, your shelter from the storm. Yet here I am, adrift without my anchor, my mind spinning in endless circles of confusion and fear. Could some long-buried trauma have resurfaced? We're all in the dark, grasping at shadows of explanation. The weight of uncertainty crushes me as I sit here with our girls, each passing moment bringing new waves of anxiety, fear, and anger. Every conceivable emotion courses through me in this nightmare scenario. Surely there must be some logical explanation for why someone would abandon their family without a word. Update 1. Sleep evaded me last night, each hour stretching into an eternity as I wrestled with my thoughts. I've been navigating Reddit's unfamiliar terrain, struggling to find my way through this maze of pain. The support from countless strangers has been overwhelming, yet the truth that emerged was devastating beyond my darkest fears. Following the community's advice, I contacted the police when my father-in-law remained silent. The wellness check unleashed a tempest of revelations. My wife had been entangled in an affair for at least 2 years, possibly longer. The cruel twist of fate? Her lover suffered a fatal heart attack that Tuesday night. The pieces began falling into place. My sister-in-law and mother-in-law had been complicit, covering her tracks all along. The silence continues. My wife hasn't reached out to me or our daughters. I'm desperately trying to shield them from this brutal reality, but I'm lost in uncharted waters. The knowledge of her betrayal feels like a physical wound, threatening to tear me apart. Each breath is a struggle as I grapple with this earth-shattering news. Your prayers and support are the only lifeline I have left. Update 2. The community's embrace has become my sanctuary in these dark times. I find myself poring over posts in the dead of night, when the day's chaos subsides and my mind becomes a battlefield of emotions. The terminology here is still foreign to me, these acronyms that represent such profound pain. But I'm learning, albeit unwillingly, the language of betrayal. Friday marked my D-Day, the day my world imploded. What I initially thought was a 2-year affair has now revealed itself to be a 4-year deception. She had known her affair partner for years before crossing that line. The revelation came only after his tragic passing, and with my eldest daughter's help, I've been piecing together this puzzle of betrayal. I'm not ready to delve into every excruciating detail. This wasn't meant to become a continuing saga, but the outpouring of support and guidance has become my therapy. The knowledge that others have walked this path of pain brings both comfort and heartache. I wouldn't wish this agony on anyone. Yesterday and today, I met with 2 different attorneys to explore my options. I've made calls about therapy, though the waiting lists in my area stretch endlessly. I'm trying to follow the wisdom of those who've been here before, avoiding alcohol, though I've never been a drinker, maintaining my physical health, exercising. At my age, I'm in decent shape, but finding the motivation to work out feels like moving mountains. I know many of you crave the specifics, the who, what, when, and where, but I'm not ready to excavate those details. Each day brings a new explosion, another revelation that rocks my foundation. Right now, I need guidance on one thing: how to find sleep when it eludes me. Update 3. Yesterday, my in-laws made an unexpected appearance at our doorstep. After 3 weeks of silence, they came to see their grandchildren, a brief, 15-minute visit that felt more like a reconnaissance mission. Then came the inevitable request for a private conversation with me. A discussion that would unveil yet another layer of this nightmare. My wife, they revealed, wants to return home. She's paralyzed by the consequences of her actions, unable to face the wreckage she's created. They'd done their homework, probing to discover my intentions regarding divorce. Their carefully crafted plea for reconciliation was wrapped in shame and humiliation. They wanted their daughter out of their home, but their words betrayed their deeper mortification at her actions. I maintained a facade of uncertainty about my future plans, though my mind is set on divorce. My hesitation stems from a desperate need for truth. I want her to sit before me, look into my eyes that have witnessed 17 years of marriage, and explain everything. After sharing countless memories, raising 3 children, and building a life together, I believe our daughters deserve to see that I gave their mother a chance to apologize and explain herself like adults. The legal reality is clear. I can't prevent her from returning home. But I made what might seem an impossible demand. She must face me, look me in the eyes, and reveal every detail of her affair, from its inception to its bitter end. Only then would I consider her return. Furthermore, she would need to face our daughters, offer them the apology they deserve, and answer their questions. It's only fair. They already know too much to pretend otherwise. Update 4. The anticipation that had been building all week culminated in an anticlimactic confrontation that left me feeling hollow inside. My wife returned home yesterday, and the moment she stepped through our doorway, the air grew thick with unspoken words and shattered trust. Where once I would have greeted her with an embrace and a kiss, there was only a chasm of awkward tension between us. In a gesture that felt like a mockery of our past intimacy, she approached me, arms outstretched for an embrace. I stepped back, my body instinctively recoiling from her touch. The audacity of her attempt to maintain normalcy, as if the past month of absence and years of deception could be erased with a simple hug, was staggering. When she finally spoke, her words were a repetition of the same evasive dance. She wasn't ready to talk about it. The same response she'd given during our phone conversations earlier in the week. I took several deep breaths, trying to contain the volcano of emotions threatening to erupt. Then, with a calmness that surprised even me, I laid out what I knew. Her 4-year affair with a coworker, her plans to leave me for another man, her ghosting of our entire family. And now here she stood, failing to meet the one requirement I had set for her return. The transformation in her expression was immediate and telling. Her face betrayed her shock at the extent of my knowledge about her affair. She fixed me with a wide-eyed stare before her gaze dropped to the kitchen floor, her posture stiffening into an unnatural stillness. This wasn't the reaction I had anticipated. No emotional outburst, no tearful confession, not even angry denials. Just this eerie, stern silence. We must have stood in that kitchen for what felt like an eternity, the silence between us growing heavier with each passing minute. I had prepared myself for every possible scenario, rehearsed countless responses, but this wall of silence, had never crossed my mind. When she finally spoke, her words were measured and calm. Okay, let's sit down and talk this through. The disconnect between the gravity of her betrayal and her composed demeanor was jarring. I found myself unleashing years of pain, love, and betrayal, my voice trembling with emotion as I detailed what I knew about her affair. How she met her AP, her sister's involvement, what happened during COVID. Throughout my outpouring, she remained silent, her eyes fixed on the floor, her body motionless. The more I spoke, the more my anger gave way to a profound sadness. Finally, my voice barely a whisper, I asked the questions that had been haunting me. What did I do to make you leave? Did you ever really love me? Was he worth destroying our family? Still, she remained silent, statue-like, offering no response, no tears, no justification, nothing. The weight of her silence was suffocating, more painful perhaps than D-Day itself. Then came the final blow. Our girls had overheard everything. In my emotional state, I had forgotten to consider their presence. Our oldest daughter, carrying years of pent-up rage, stormed downstairs, her anger finally finding its target. My wife fled to the bedroom, locking herself away from the chaos she had created. Now we're trapped in this limbo of coexistence. Only our youngest attempts to communicate with her mother. The others maintain their distance. I plan to suggest she stay with her sister until the divorce is finalized, though I'm not sure I can find the strength to have that conversation. This is still her home, legally speaking, but living together in this state of emotional paralysis is unsustainable. You were all right about my wife, and I was wrong about everything. Every year we spent together, every memory we created, every life-changing moment we shared. I had foolishly believed she would fall to her knees, begging for forgiveness, confessing everything and showing genuine remorse. This woman, who once drove back to a farmer's market to return an extra $10 in change, now can't even face the truth of her actions. The atmosphere at home today was suffocating. The girls and I tried to maintain our routine from the past 2 weeks, but it's clearly impossible now. All I want is to fast forward through this nightmare. The divorce, the uncomfortable conversations, the inevitable battles and drama. I keep reading that things will get better, but right now, that feels like a distant dream. I'm struggling to contain my anger, trying desperately to maintain calm for our daughter's sake. But I'm not sure how long I can keep this up. School starts soon, and we have at least 3 months of this ahead of us. This is my life now, a reality I never imagined I'd have to face. I'm grateful for everyone's support and guidance, but I'm lost as to how to navigate this next phase. Is the worst behind us, or is there more pain to come? Any advice on how to survive this coexistence would be deeply appreciated. Update 5. The facade I've maintained for my daughter's sake is crumbling. Despite my best efforts to present a composed exterior, to speak and think rationally, tonight I was hit by a tidal wave of emotion that shattered my carefully constructed walls. The girls were out, and for the first time since everything went viral a month ago, my wife was waiting for me in the kitchen when I returned home. I tried to brush past her, maintaining the distance that had become our new normal, but she reached out and caught my hand. Her touch, once so familiar and comforting, now felt like fire against my skin. "Are you going to treat me this way forever because I wasn't ready to discuss the affair?" she asked softly. It was the first time she'd mentioned her infidelity since everything exploded. "I swear to you," I tried to walk away. I tried to bite my tongue and maintain the composure I'd worked so hard to achieve. But with our daughters absent, all the vices, hurts, aches, anger, and miseries I'd been suppressing came pouring out in an unstoppable torrent. I lost all sense of time as years of betrayal and pain spilled from my lips. My voice rose and fell, sometimes breaking with emotion, sometimes thundering with rage. I laid bare every devastating thought that had haunted me, every sleepless night, every moment of doubt that now tainted our shared history. Through it all, my wife began to cry, not the controlled tears I'd seen before, but deep, racking sobs that seemed to come from somewhere primal. For the first time, I saw genuine emotion break through her carefully maintained facade, and to my shame, some dark part of me felt satisfaction in her pain. She whispered, "I'm so sorry," repeatedly between sobs, but I was too far gone to stop. Eventually, before she could gather herself enough to say more, I retreated from the kitchen, begging her to leave me alone. She spent some time in the kitchen before leaving for her sister's house, the sound of her car engine fading into the night. The girls sensed something had happened when they returned home, though it's hard to hide anything in this house anymore. I wasn't prepared to discuss it, and I'm not sure they should know about this particular confrontation. I don't want to halt the progress the two younger ones have been making, and I certainly don't want to fuel my oldest's anger further. I hate this so much. I hate that I lost control, that I allowed her to see how deeply she's wounded me. I should have maintained my composure, should have just walked past her. Looking back, perhaps she was trying to broach the subject of her affair, but I exploded before she could get very far. Now I'm genuinely worried about her. With everyone shunning her, she's been isolated with her thoughts. Though she deserves the consequences of her actions, she's still a person and the mother of my children. What a blow to my progress. I also yelled at my brother on the phone today. I'll try to start fresh on Monday. We're all human after all. I must admit, it felt cathartic to finally vent to her, but now I'm consumed by regret. Should I text her? Should I maintain my distance? I'm a complete wreck, but I'm grateful for this community that helps me navigate through this chaos. We've all started therapy, so that's something positive amidst the turmoil. This is just so incredibly difficult. The emotional roller coaster seems never-ending. One moment I'm making progress, the next I'm back in the depths of despair. Thank you for listening, for providing the support I need to get through this, and for all your suggestions. In the midst of this chaos, your guidance has been my lifeline. Update 6. Last night, after weeks of emotional turmoil and unanswered questions, the truth finally emerged in its raw, unvarnished form. After our daughters had retired to their rooms, my wife appeared at my door, her demeanor different from the tentative approaches of the past week. This time, there was a resignation in her eyes that I hadn't seen before. We retreated to the garage, seeking privacy in my car, a strange setting for such a momentous conversation, but somehow fitting for the deconstruction of our marriage. For 3 hours, we sat there as she finally unveiled everything, reading from 5 pages of handwritten notes that detailed her descent into infidelity. The story unfolded like a tragic play. Her sister had introduced her to her AP about 5 years ago. Initially, there were no romantic intentions. He was simply a higher-up at the company she aspired to work for. She insisted that their affair wasn't the catalyst for her career change, but the truth hung heavy in the air between us. Once she secured the position, the boundaries began to blur, first with flirtatious texts, then pictures, escalating until just before COVID struck. She claimed she wanted to confess immediately after confiding in her sister, but chose to bury the truth instead. When lockdown restrictions eased, her AP reached out again, and despite her claims of attempting to maintain no contact, the physical aspect of their relationship resumed. She described multiple attempts to end the affair out of guilt, but she kept returning to him, weaving an intricate web of lies to cover her tracks. The list of deceptions was extensive: fabricated weekend trips with the girls, non-existent work travel, imaginary traffic jams, fictional family emergencies, countless shopping excursions. Each lie she confessed felt like a fresh wound, especially because I had accepted them all without question, my trust in her so complete it never occurred to me to doubt. What struck me most was her admission that she had fallen in love with him, dreaming of a different life he promised, one filled with luxury, travel, and freedom from family responsibilities. She spoke of how the mundane routines of family life had begun to suffocate her, how the excitement of their forbidden relationship had become intoxicating. Halfway through her confession, I found myself breaking down, anger and grief overwhelming me. I couldn't resist making a cutting remark about her AP having multiple girlfriends, about her being just one of many he was ready to discard. The comment clearly wounded her, but I couldn't find it in myself to care. Then I asked the question that had been burning in my mind. If her AP were still alive, who would she choose? Her hesitation spoke volumes before she whispered, "That's not fair." When I pressed, she eventually claimed she would choose me, but the lie was transparent in her voice. That's when I knew, beyond any doubt, that divorce was our only path forward. We sat in silence for a while, her tears falling steadily. Finally, I told her that we would divorce, but we owed it to our children to remain civil co-parents. I expressed hope that after all the pain she'd caused, she would at least show her love for me by handling our divorce amicably and fairly. In a final gesture that surprised even me, I leaned over and kissed her forehead, telling her I would have loved her forever, then left her sitting in the car. The irony wasn't lost on me. Imagine discovering that the only woman you've ever loved, your high school sweetheart and life partner, betrayed you for 4 years simply because she was bored. No marital problems, no dead bedroom, no falling out of love, just boredom. Sleep eludes me again tonight as I process everything. The truth I sought so desperately now weighs heavily on my chest. Each good day seems to be followed by another emotional setback, and I'm beginning to wonder if this cycle of pain will ever end. But at least now I know the complete, unvarnished truth, however much it hurts. Thank you all for being my support system through these darkest of days. The morning after our garage conversation, the weight of reality settled over our home like a heavy fog. Our oldest daughter, ever perceptive, noticed the shift in atmosphere immediately. She cornered me in the kitchen, her eyes searching mine for answers. "Dad, what happened last night?" I heard voices in the garage. The concern in her voice made my heart ache. At 15, she's already shouldering burdens no child should bear. My middle daughter, usually the peacemaker, has retreated into herself, spending hours in her room with her headphones on, while our youngest still tries to maintain some semblance of normalcy, though her forced smiles break my heart. They're all coping in their own ways, but I can see the cracks forming in their carefully constructed facades. My wife has taken to spending most of her time at her sister's house, coming home only for brief periods to gather clothes or see the girls. The few times we've crossed paths, the air between us crackles with unspoken words and shattered dreams. Sometimes I catch her looking at our family photos on the wall, her fingers tracing the glass over our smiling faces, and for a moment, I see a glimmer of the woman I married. But then reality crashes back, and we're strangers again. Last night, I found myself sitting in our backyard, staring at the swing set we built together when the girls were small. Every inch of this house holds memories, some beautiful, some now tainted by the knowledge of her deception. How many of those precious moments were real, and how many were just part of her elaborate performance? The thought that she could maintain such a convincing facade of happiness while living a double life still staggers me. The divorce proceedings loom ahead like a dark storm on the horizon. My attorney has been patient but firm, reminding me that we need to move forward regardless of my emotional state. The practical aspects of dismantling a 17-year marriage feel surreal. Dividing assets, discussing custody arrangements, untangling our intertwined lives. Each document I sign feels like another nail in the coffin of our relationship. My brother suggested I start dating again, but the thought makes me physically ill. How do you trust again after something like this? How do you open yourself up to another person when the one person you trusted most in the world shattered that trust so completely? The very idea of romantic involvement seems like a cruel joke right now. The hardest part isn't the betrayal itself anymore. It's the random moments that catch me off guard. Finding her favorite coffee mug in the cabinet. The scent of her perfume lingering in our closet. The way our youngest daughter has her exact same laugh. These little daggers of memory that pierce through whatever emotional armor I've managed to construct. Our therapist says this is all normal, that grief comes in waves, that healing isn't linear. But knowing something intellectually doesn't make it easier to bear emotionally. Every night, I lie awake wondering if there was something I could have done differently, some sign I should have seen. The rational part of me knows this isn't my fault, but the heart isn't always rational. The community here has been my lifeline through all of this. Your stories of survival, your words of encouragement, your shared experiences. They've given me hope that there's life after betrayal. I may not see it clearly yet, but I trust that somewhere beyond this pain, there's a future worth fighting for. For now, I focus on my girls. They are my compass, my reason for getting up each morning and putting one foot in front of the other. We're all learning to navigate this new reality together, finding our way through the darkness one day at a time. It's not the life I imagined, but it's the life we have, and somehow we'll make it through. To those who've walked this path before me, thank you. Your guidance has been invaluable. To those just starting this journey, you're not alone. And to those still in the depths of pain, hold on. The darkness doesn't last forever, or so I'm told. I have to believe that's true. Final update. Yesterday, I received a letter from my wife, pages of tear-stained confessions and regrets. She wrote about watching our daughters grow up, about the countless moments of joy we shared, about the life we built together. She described how the excitement of her affair gradually turned to poison, how each lie became harder to tell, how she watched herself become someone she didn't recognize. She wrote about the moment she realized her AP had died, how the shock of his death shattered her carefully constructed fantasy world and forced her to confront the magnitude of what she'd done. She described the paralyzing guilt that kept her away those first few weeks, the shame that made it impossible to face me or our children. Reading her words, I felt a complex mix of emotions, anger at her choices, sadness for our lost future, and a strange kind of pity for the woman who threw away a lifetime of love for fleeting moments of excitement. She ended the letter by saying she would accept whatever terms I set for the divorce, that she understood she had forfeited any right to contest my decisions. Our oldest daughter found me sitting with the letter and asked if she could read it. After some consideration, I let her. She's old enough to understand, and perhaps knowing her mother's thoughts might help her heal. She read it silently, tears streaming down her face, then hugged me tighter than she has since she was small. Later that evening, all three girls gathered in my room. We talked about everything, their fears, their anger, their confusion. Our middle daughter asked if people could ever truly change. Our youngest wanted to know if it was okay to still love her mom despite everything. I didn't have all the answers, but we held each other and promised to face whatever comes together. The path ahead is still uncertain. The divorce proceedings continue, and each day brings new challenges. But there's a different quality to the pain now, less raw, more contemplative. I'm beginning to understand that while betrayal broke our family apart, it's also showing us how strong we can be together. My wife moves out next week. She's found an apartment nearby to stay close to the girls. We're working on a custody arrangement that puts our children's needs first. It's strange to think that the woman I once shared everything with will soon be just another parent at school events and holiday gatherings. The therapist says I'm making progress, though some days it doesn't feel like it. I've started keeping a journal, trying to make sense of everything that's happened. Sometimes I write letters I'll never send. To my younger self, to the man I thought I'd be, to the woman I thought I married. The community here continues to be my anchor. Your stories of survival, your words of wisdom, your shared experiences, they remind me that this pain is not unique to me, that others have walked this path and found their way to happiness again. To update you on the practical matters, the divorce should be final in 2 months. We've agreed on asset division and custody arrangements. The girls will primarily live with me, but spend weekends with their mother. It's not the life I imagined, but it's a life we can build from. Looking back at my first post here, I barely recognized that confused, desperate man searching for answers. The pain hasn't gone away entirely. I doubt it ever will, but it's changed. It's become part of my story rather than my whole story. To everyone who's followed this journey, thank you. Your support has meant more than words can express. To those just beginning this path, there is light ahead, even if you can't see it yet. And to my future self, we're going to be okay. Different, but okay. Life goes on, in its strange and unexpected ways. Yesterday, I caught myself laughing at something my youngest said, a genuine, unguarded laugh. It felt foreign at first, then wonderful. Small moments like these remind me that while my marriage may be over, my capacity for joy isn't. This will be my last update here. It's time to step away from this chapter and focus on writing the next one. Thank you all for being part of my story. May we all find the peace we deserve.